Good morning and good afternoon, and welcome to another episode of Random Trek. I am your faithful, not a clone, Captain Christopher Ingle, joined as always by my friend to family, Commander Brennan, the mystical Mar. Brennan, how are we doing today?
Why does the tall man have a furry face?
It is a very good question. One of many we hope to answer today as we take a look at the 10th film in the Star Trek canon and the final film of the Next Generation crew, Star Trek Nemesis. Brennan, I remember seeing this film in theaters. Did you see this in theaters?
No, I missed this one in theaters.
It's this one. This was a big deal. I just graduated high school and I saw this and I loved it so much. I loved it on review. We'll talk about
We'll get there.
But as always, and as is tradition when we talk about a Star Trek movie, we are joined by a very special guest. He is our transporter chief, the Miles O'Brien of this ship. It's Justin Toner. Justin, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on the show, guys. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Well, Justin, this is your first time on our show. So as tradition dictates, I'm going to throw the first overall question to you. Justin, where did your love of Star Trek begin?
Okay, well, I discovered Star Trek via Star Trek The Next Generation. I don't remember the exact date. It was either late, I think it had to be late 87, because I stumbled upon the show when this first season was going on, and the first episode I ever watched was ironically Datalore, which is your twin brother Lore, which is definitely one of the better episodes of the first season. So I think I lucked out, because maybe if I'd watched some of the earlier episodes, which I eventually saw in reruns, maybe I would not have gotten so hooked on the show. But I'd heard of Star Trek. I was familiar with like the original stuff and Captain Kirk, but I never really watched it, like not even in reruns. But it was just something about the show, The Next Generation, the characters that kind of like drew me in. And before I knew it, it's like I was all in on the show. And then as the TNG went along, I started looking at like the original series. I went back and rewatched that, and it's like then a few years, it's like I was a diehard Trekkie. I remember going to see the first one Star Trek film I saw in the theater was The Final Frontier, unfortunately. Because by that time I was familiar enough with the original series crew and characters and seeing the other movies that I wanted to go see it.
Yeah, we had a lot to say about that film, didn't we, Captain?
We did.
But, I think all three of us are of a similar age. Yes. That Next Gen was our first exposure to Star Trek. And I think that it's always going to play a big part in our love of the franchise.
Absolutely. The TNG characters and cast have a special place in my heart. And much as I enjoyed a lot of the other Trek shows and characters that we've gotten over the decades, it's like TNG is always going to be, like that was my gateway to Star Trek. So it's like it's always going to be number one. It's like the DS9 definitely. It's like I waffle sometimes between which is my favorite, TNG or DS9. Yeah. So it's like 1 and 1A kind of. It's like it's hard because they were both great. So
yeah, same here. Very much the same here.
All right. Well, why don't we go ahead and kind of open up the discussion of Nemesis here with a little bit of our initial thoughts going into this. Justin, you're our guest. When we asked you to come on and talk about Nemesis, what were your initial thoughts of this film?
I was a little surprised, but I was willing to go with it because this is definitely not one of my favorite Star Trek films, and I consider it definitely in like the bottom tier. But there's a lot to discuss about the problems that this movie has, and kind of like the overall effect that this movie unfortunately had on the franchise. But having gone back and rewatched some of it recently, including today, there's some things in this movie. It's not like a total disaster. There's there's some like good nuggets in the movie and some nice things, but we'll get into like like a lot of the overall problems that I have with the movie, and probably maybe might have some similar thoughts on that. But it I'm always willing to talk Star Trek, even if it's like not something that's like my favorite thing in the franchise. Just because, I mean, it allows us to look back and say like, well, look, even if it's something that maybe is not as good, we can still find some like good, so good nuggets inside of something that's like overall not that great. So I saw this in the theater when it came out, and I was perplexed at first when I first saw this, and then like the second time I watched it, that's when my opinion really started to kind of go downhill about the film. It's like more of the problems with the plot and other things started to become apparent to me, and I was very disappointed. Because just an idea, because like the idea of like, oh, we're gonna just focus on the Romulans and stuff like that. Romulans are like one of my favorite races in Trek, and so I was kind of like hyped for that, and so that definitely kind of let me down as far as like when things went with the plot and everything. So
yeah.
Brennan, how about you?
I'm very much. I think I agree. This is a mixed bag. There are elements in it, moments in it, things like that I really do enjoy, and other moments where I'm like, Also, we'll talk about this later, but there's a lot of actually really good deleted scenes, which for some reason or another were left out. Unfortunately, I think because they probably would have helped the movie. But overall, I was not dreading it. I was actually like, okay, I haven't watched it in a couple of years, so let's give it a shot and see what we got. And in fact, I think the most recent time I watched it was like 3 years ago, when Justin and I were going head to head on the Outlaw Nation to determine who would be the Star Trek champion.
It's me.
You're not in the Outlaw Nation.
I'm just saying.
But anyhow, so I was not dreading this, and I went back and watched it, and I overall, I think I'm okay with it. I'll say that much.
Yeah, this is a very middle of the range film for me. Like, the stuff that I feel gets right is awesome. It's some of the best that Star Trek could have. And then the stuff that's really bad, again, I hate to say it, sometimes feels a little Star Trek 5-ish at times. When it's good, it's good.
Yeah.
And it's bad, it's bad.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
But let's get into this. Let's get into this. So, plot-wise, we open up on Romulus.
Yes.
Something we rarely see. We are in the Romulan Senate. And the members of the Romulan Senate are having a debate. They're talking peace with different things.
With Remus.
Remus, correct. And the Remans, we're reminded, are a slave race of the Romulan Empire from the neighboring planet. Although it looks more like a moon than a planet, but I digress.
But yeah, I mean, it's a little bit like, what?
Yeah, because they see the Riemann moon, and it's complicated. I'll get into that. But anyway, point is, the military faction supports Shinzon. We don't know yet who Shinzon, but we'll get our first mention of Shinzon as Praetor. But the Senate are opposed to this alliance. They reject the motion, and the Praetor and the senators end up getting disintegrated by some kind of device left in the room by a Romulan senator, and everyone in the room is just desiccated and just turned into dust.
Pretty nasty too for Star Trek.
It really is, yeah. And then it fades into a happy moment. The wedding of Riker and Troy. Something we've been waiting for since day one.
Since the very first episode.
Yes. We get a toast, a lovely toast from Captain Picard. I want him as my I was gonna say my first officer. No offense, Brennan. My best man.
Hey,
my best man.
Between me and Patrick Stewart, you can have him.
Yeah, and so then we start the party, and Data gives a gift, and he serenades them with a rendition of Irving Berlin's Blue Skies, which at first seems kind of kitschy, but it stuck with me, and we'll talk more about that. But that song,
Brent Spiner's a good singer. So.
He is a good singer, but that song plays so much more into Star Trek canon.
Yes.
We will talk about this, but he plays Blue Skies, and so en route to the ceremony,
much to Worf's chagrin.
Well, a very drunk Worf.
Yeah.
Romulan ale should be illegal.
It is.
Thank you. Thank you, Captain Obvious. Oh, I'm sorry, Lieutenant Commander Obvious. Oh, did I just burn Geordi? I just burned Geordi.
Oh, no. We don't tolerate that.
I have to say that the record, the Riker and Troy finally getting married is definitely one of my favorite parts of the movie because, like you said, it was long overdue that those two finally got together.
And they broke up for a long time.
Yep.
I'm so happy. I am.
Yeah.
It's one. I'll say this. It's one of the good things that really came out of Insurrection that I'm happy about.
Yeah.
It rebutted that relationship, and it should have been.
Good point.
But on the way to Beta Z, they discover a
very naked wedding.
Worf is protesting having to follow the Beza tradition of being completely naked for the ceremony.
Yeah.
which is a callback to all the way back to like first season TNG.
Yes.
It's well known that
Oksana Troy walking into 10 forward naked
to break up her wedding
with Tony J, I believe it was.
Tony J,
yes. Yes.
Tony J. Love that.
Lord Frollo himself.
It is. But anyway, they discover an energy signature, a strange one, on the planet of Kalaris 3 near the Romulan neutral zone. It's a positronic signature, known only to Soon-type androids. This catches everyone's attention. So they decide to divert. They have time. They're going to go divert and investigate. Worf, Data, and Picard land on the planet in the Argo. Kind of cool, actually. Which is just this giant dune buggy kind of thing, but all right. And they discover pieces of an android that, when it comes back together, put together, is a prototype. It is named B4. Is fitting.
But like these silly names,
right? But they're attacked while they're by the natives that are on this planet. They escape back into the Argo loading craft to get back to the Enterprise. While they're investigating this android, Picard gets a call from Admiral Janeway. Giving orders for a diplomatic mission to Romulus, where Shinzon, we found out, has taken over the Empire and wants peace with the Federation. Interesting. When they arrive, they learn that first of all, we'll talk about this as its own, but we get the introduction to the Scimitar, which is one of the top 5 scariest Star Trek ships ever made, right up there with the Narada, probably. Yeah, the Narada and the Klingon legacy ship in Discovery. I think it's pretty intimidating too. Anyway, I digress. They beam over and they meet Shinzon, and they discover that Shinzon is a clone of Picard, played beautifully actually by Tom Hardy.
Yes, one of his very earliest films. Yeah,
very early in his career.
Absolutely. What we find out is that he was secretly created by the Romulans as a plan to replace Picard and kind of circumvent the Federation. They could do
which actually would have been during their isolation years.
Yes, absolutely.
When that happened,
yeah. He's supposed to be like in his
25
early 30s.
Well, he's an accelerated clone, I think, similar to what we had like in Star Wars. He's accelerated.
Yeah. Okay.
So they were planning something.
Yeah. Anyway, the project was abandoned as things change, and he was abandoned as like a failure. Partly because he has Shellot syndrome, which is a verification for them that yes, this Picard had Shellot syndrome,
and he was thrown in a Riemann dilithium mine.
Right. Well, he eventually became a soldier for the Remans and fought during the Dominion War. So he eventually became the leader of the Remans, secretly constructed the Scimitar, and then plotted the overthrow of the Romulan Empire.
And we finally get to see the Remans.
Yes, this is our introduction to the Remans.
Which is actually some really cool makeup.
It is,
yes.
Yeah. Also, we meet the Reman Viceroy, played really good makeup by Ron Perlman. If you didn't know, you wouldn't know. The makeup's that good. I'll say it.
Yeah,
it is. It works for me. I did not recognize it's Ron Perlman, and the voice, I get it now, but I didn't recognize it for a long time.
Yeah,
It was really good. But the Enterprise detects some interesting radiation. It's Thalaron, which has been banned by the Federation due to its really dangerous properties. It's very destructive.
And we see what it did at the beginning of the movie. We see what
that very radiation, very small amounts, destroyed the entire Senate.
Yeah.
So there are also some weird attempts communicating with the Enterprise computer. And also a very out of place scene that we'll talk about, where Shinzon invades the mind of Troy through his Reman advisor.
Oh yeah, I got a lot to say about that.
We'll talk. We'll get to that point.
Yeah.
What Crusher discovers through the work is that Shinzon clone isn't perfect and is dying because of the process to make him. It's accelerating too fast.
Yeah, it's accelerated, so he's going to die quickly.
And they need a transfusion of Picard's blood. Shinzon ends up kidnapping Picard and B4. But we find out that he planted B4 on Kalaris as a lure to get Picard out there.
Yeah, sleeper agent.
However, they were not unaware, or the Enterprise crew was ready for this, because it's not B4, it's Data. They swapped places. And they rescue Picard in a really cool escape scene. I do like this escape scene.
Yeah.
And so what they determine is that the Scimitar is going to be used to invade the Federation and use the Thalaron generator as a way to destroy Earth. You destroy Earth, you destroy the Federation. That's the belief.
Yep. Classic move. Try to destroy Earth. The
Enterprise tries to head back, but is intercepted at the Bassin Rift by the Scimitar, which, it's just the Enterprise and the Scimitar at this point. And the Scimitar is, as Picard described it, she's a predator. She has nothing but offensive weaponry and massive shields. Like, she's a beast. And they can't do much, and they're trying their best, but they're failing. However, at the last second, 2 Romulan warbirds decloak and offer help to Picard.
Because they don't like Shinzon.
Shinzon. Yes, Commander Dinatra, who we actually meet periodically. She's not a believer. She's not, and she doesn't want this. So they fight. Ooh, that was a big amount of thunder. Ladies and gentlemen, I have a huge thunderstorm going on outside of my house, like we're in battle, a ship-to-ship battle. But anyway,
and it's a nasty battle too.
It is a nasty battle today.
Enterprise gets trashed. Really,
it does get trashed, but in some of the best ways. Anyway, so they fight, but what happens is eventually they're drawn into kind of a stalemate. They temporarily disable the Scimitar, but again, some of the best ship-to-ship battles I've ever seen. The Romulan warbirds are kind of they're shot down. They're not destroyed, but they're shot down. The Enterprise is pretty beat up, and in the end, they decide to ram the Enterprise into the Scimitar,
which is a carryover from Insurrection.
They end up pulling out face to face, and there's just destruction to both ships. They're running out of time, and Shinzon,
for the first time, the view screen getting blown out.
Yes.
Yeah.
So Shinzon says, "Activate the weapon. We're just going to decimate the Enterprise." And so they begin decimating it. However, Data ends up deciding to leap. He jumps from the Enterprise to the ship. And by the way, at this point,
Because Captain Picard's been taken.
Yeah. Picard's been taken. I forgot to mention that. Picard gets taken again. And so Data leaps from one ship to the other, makes it aboard, storms the Scimitar, and there goes the lightning. And an interesting fight. Shinzon ends up being killed by Picard, but it looks like all hope is lost until Data puts a special transponder device on Picard, and Picard beams back to the Enterprise, leaving Data to destroy the Thalaron generator before it can be launched, unfortunately killing himself in the process. Yeah, and this just really devastates everyone. It does. The bridge crew mourn the loss of Data.
And the Romulans, the loyal Romulans.
Remember this.
The ones who were loyal to the original Senate.
Which, again, will play a lot down the line between Captain Picard and the relations with the Romulans.
Yeah, so now they're open to talking.
They get back to Earth. Picard bids farewell to Riker, who goes over to the Titan with Troy. Picard then begins to nurture B4. They believe Data downloaded all his memories into B4 to see if it would work. It doesn't seem like it's working, but then as they're walking away, B4 starts singing, "Never saw the sun shining so bright." He just keeps repeating, "Never saw the sun." He just keeps it, and that lets Picard know that Data is in there somewhere. And we'll talk about that. But as they leave, the ship is in dock, ready to be repaired and worked on, and to prepare for whatever adventures the Enterprise has to offer in our future. But this will be the last time the Next Gen crew are all together until Picard season 3.
For 20 years,
20 years. All right. So let's get this puppy. Let's kick this off. The first thing I want to hit on, because I just love it, and I think the ship-to-ship battles. I want to hit this because this is something that was always my favorite as a kid. I loved it when I saw the Enterprise D, rarely, but when the Enterprise D entered into combat.
And thank goodness for a Deep Space Nine, because then you get
DS9, but I didn't see DS9 until I was much older, so I never got to see that. Voyager, when Voyager would enter into combat and fight and have to do maneuvers, and I love that stuff. I was the kind of guy that used to watch Babylon 5 for when the fighters would come out, that's the stuff I love. This is the best ship-to-ship battle up to this point that we would truly see. And there's been some good ones.
Except maybe through the Battle of the Mutara Nebula.
I'm going to argue no. That's good in its own right, in its own way.
That's true. That was with limited technology.
Yeah, I like the ship-to-ship combat in this. I really enjoy it. The strategy that plays. And also what's funny is how much you see... How much is Picard like Shinzon, which is a theme? How much is Picard like Shinzon, and how much is Shinzon like Picard? How well do they truly know each other?
Does our environment shape who we are?
And then it actually adds up to a really good battle because of it. The strategies involved, and how are we going to stop each other, and this tit for tat that
and it's
goes
a
on.
Gritty knockdown battle.
It's a great fight. I enjoyed this, and graphically, it looks good. It looks really good.
And the Bassin Rift gives it a really cool background.
Absolutely, but it's green, which with you kind of get it with the Romulans. It's green.
Yeah, green blood.
What is it with the Borg, the Romulans? Why does everyone have to do green? Why are we doing green here?
Hey, green's good.
It looks good.
Brennan, what do you think about this fight?
This is a fantastic fight. I think we'll get to it in a minute, so I don't want to dwell on it. The part that doesn't work is Riker's fight with the Viceroy. In a minute. But the ship-to-ship battle, particularly things like the view screen getting blown out, the one guy unfortunately getting sucked out into space. The ramming scene is really cool. The Romulan showing up to help out, and I love the design of the new warbirds. That's really cool. I love the design of the scimitar. Getting to see the Enterprise in action like this. We had not gotten to see the Enterprise E really do a battle like this, and the Sovereign class is so cool.
Yeah, we got a little bit of it with Insurrection, but they were outnumbered, and it took blowing up a warp core to win. So this really felt,
this is a great battle.
Despite the firepower, this really felt like the best equal opportunity kind of fight.
And like hand-to-hand combat on the Enterprise.
I love this. I didn't like the hand-to-hand fighting. We'll
get there. We'll get there.
Justin, how do you feel about this fight?
Like you guys, this is one of the better parts of the film for me. One of the few things I do like about this movie is the spaceship battle. Because at this point, you know, even though it's 20 years old, the special effects are still pretty good for this ship battle. You know, it's like it's amazing how far they've come as far as like what they can do now, like what you see on the current shows, you know, Stranger Worlds and Picard. I love the ship designs, the scimitar. I know some people don't like the scimitar. I think the scimitar is a really kind of cool looking, very ominous, you know, like it's like one of the few. It's like, you know, there's not many great lines in the movie, but I do like when Picard's like looks at her and says like she's a predator. It's like because the ship is designed to just from the visual design is meant to look menacing. It's like to intimidate you. It's like it's huge. It's like twice the size of the Sovereign Enterprise E. It's a huge ship, and like Worf lifts off that. It's got like all these like disruptor banks. It's loaded with photon torpedoes, and then of course it's got the Thaleron wrapping on top of that. So it's a gigantic killing machine, and I like that, you know, like, you know, Picard has to play, you know, it's like, you know, do a lot of like duck and dodge here because he knows that like they can't. It's like it's good. Like the Enterprise, the Sovereign class is a really cool starship, and it was you know, built during, you know, time right around the Dominion War happened. You know, it's like it, and it was definitely, you know, like a part of where Starfleet was definitely thinking about like building more fighter capable ships between, you know, the Borg being a threat, and then, you know, it's like what happened with the Dominion and the whole war. She can go into battle, and so it was nice to see like the Enterprise E go into like a real battle, because like you said, the one in Insurrection, yeah, there is a battle, but it doesn't last very long, and it's more Riker has to like do a little like outmaneuvering because, like you said, like they're outgunned. It's like there's two Sonos ships and there's only just the Enterprise, and it's like they get damaged. So he's like he has to pull some tricks on his hat in order to win that. This is more of a straight up just like we're pounding the hell out of each other kind of
and
fight.
To give you an idea of what this ship can do, let me give you its stats. It is twice as big as the Enterprise E. It can fire when cloaked. It has 52 disruptor banks, 27 photon torpedo bays, and has both primary and secondary phasing shields.
Yeah.
This thing is badass.
Yeah, we saw what happened all the way back in Star Trek 6 when you have a ship that can fire when cloaked. And it's like how General Chang's Bird of Prey did a number on the Enterprise A in Undiscovered Country. It's like we see that here because if I remember correctly, like because like Shinson comes to the battle like cloaked and he's like firing, and it takes a while then for them to we need to get past the cloak, and then we can be able to try to damage, you know, like the scimitar. So like that's a huge tactical advantage that it can fire while cloaked. That's really scary. You know, it's like, you know, it's like it can devastate a starship and they can't even see it until it's too late. You know,
I don't think we've really seen something this damaging since, and correct me if I'm wrong, Brennan, the plasma bolt from Balance of Terror.
Yeah. We haven't seen anything like this.
No, yeah, I totally agree.
And that was from a Romulan Bird of Prey way back when. I mean, look at the evolution we have that we.
Yeah, that was well over 100 years ago.
Yeah,
Nemesis.
This is nuts. This is nuts.
Yeah,
and Oh, go ahead.
Oh,
go ahead.
one last thing. I also like the new Warbird design.
Yeah.
They're really cool. A lot of these ship designs ended up in the Star Trek Online game, which I frequently play.
Oh yeah.
So it's they really did a good job of rendering those stuff into the game. Yeah, it's a cool moment. I do like it's a cool moment when Commander Donatra shows up to help, because it's like there was hints throughout the movie that she was, yeah, like you said, she was not all in on Shinzon taking over. And it's like it's like, yeah, she was following along because she's only a commander. She wasn't, there was higher ranking members of the military that were supporting Shinzon above her.
Yeah.
But it's like, but he's like, there's that scene where he singles her out when the one Romulan's like, why are you wasting time? You said you were going to attack the Federation. Why did you bring the Enterprise here? It's like, what are you doing? Because they don't know about his plan to to get Picard's blood and all that, and the other weird reasons he wants to spend time with Picard for. We'll get into that later. But like he's like, hey, because like it's like, I want you to prove your loyalty to me. It's like, keep an eye on him. If he looks like he's going to betray me, I want you to tell me, because then I'll reward you. If you don't, then I'll kill you.
Yeah.
It's like
And it's like that's the way you get someone on your side.
Yeah. Also, she's played by Dina Meyer, who I'm a fan of from Starship Troopers. So it was cool seeing her in
wait
a
a
Trek
minute.
movie.
That's Dizzy?
She's spoken very fondly over the years of playing this character. It's like, it's not like a big role, but it's like it's a bit memorable.
Wait, did she play Dizzy on
Yes,
Starship
yeah,
Troopers?
she was
That's
Dizzy.
her.
Yeah,
Okay.
she was Dizzy in Starship Troopers.
She's also in
wow,
Dragonheart and played Barbara Gordon in the short-lived Birds of Prey series.
Who did she play in Dragonheart? Was she the love interest kind of,
Her name was Kara.
Yeah, I think I know who the character is.
There's also a Johnny Mnemonic.
Wait, is it her character whose dad gets blinded by the king?
Yeah,
I think that's her character.
So,
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, I remember that.
Anyway, that whole ship battle is really cool. It's definitely one of the few parts of the movie I really enjoy. On all that stuff. So yeah, definitely one of the positives of this movie is the spaceship fighting.
Yeah, I want to move from our ships into what is the heart of any good story, and that's its characters. Let's focus on our captain and our villain, because you obviously, with the plot of this, they are a mirror of each other, and that is a theme in here. So let's talk a little bit about that. Justin, how did you like the kind of weird chemistry, but that works, I think, between Shinzon and Picard?
If you ignore the other parts of the movie.
It's kind of weird, but there's moments where it's like it works just because of, I mean, this is early Tom Hardy, like he was just starting his career. It's like, but you can see definitely the acting chops that he would definitely show off later in his career. It's like unfortunately the box office failure and the negative reception this movie got, as he's talked about, really hurt his career. He caused a lot of personal problems for him, unfortunately, which is very sad, because
and he came back with the vengeance.
He got into drugs and even contemplated suicide. It's like, comes out of what this did for his career. It took him several years to be able to get his career back. I think
was the movie Warrior where he really bounced back? I
think so, and then Inception. I think between those two, that's when his career finally was really able to take off.
That's correct.
It's unfortunate, because he really, it's like, despite issues with the plot and everything, he really puts in a heck of a performance as Shinzon. Especially in the scenes with Patrick Stewart. There's moments where they really play off each other really well. Especially later in the movie, where Picard really tries to reason with him, because at first, Picard is very disturbed and offended that this is a clone of me. He's like, he feels he's like there's a line that is from a deleted scene that was in the trailer, like he tells Troy that he feels violated. It's like, like that, this is that
done
like the
without
Romulans were
my
planning
consent.
to kill him and replace him with this clone. But then when he finds out about everything that's happened to Shinzon and what he's gone through, he feels sorry for him in a way, even though he's trying to cause all this death and destruction. Picard still feels for him because it's like he never really got a chance to be able to have a real life, a better life. It's like he was thrown into the lithium mines with the Remans
when he was just a kid. Yeah,
just only like when he was a teenager.
Yeah.
And he had to go endure all that hardship, and then fighting in the Dominion War. As we've seen, the Dominion War definitely has left a lot of scars on a lot of people. It's like with what the Federation, not just the Federation, but also Klingons and the Romulans, and what they had to do in order to win that war. And it's like, and the effect it had on the galaxy. And it's like, so it's like he's a war veteran on top of that, of a very nasty war. And he's like, he feels, it's like he's definitely of like, it's like, I'm going out in a blaze of glory because I don't got much time left. I'm gonna I want to leave my mark on the universe. I want to do something memorable. And like, what better way to do it than to take out the hurt the Federation, and
which is the callback.
Yeah.
When he wants to know about the mark that the Picards left on the galaxy.
Yeah. And
he wants to know what legacy he's part of.
Yeah. And they talk about that. And of all the scenes, the one I think is my favorite, and I think it works best, is the last time they talk, where he appears in Picard's ready room, I think by a hologram, is it?
Yeah.
And they have that conversation where Picard tries to reason with him to try to get through to him to stop his very maddening plan. And it becomes evident that at this point Shinzon is too far gone. He just does not give a hoot. It's like he is going to do what he's going to do, and and at least it's nice that Picard at least attempts to try to get through to him, because he does feel some sympathy for what a craptacular life he's lived, and how it shaped him. It's like, even though he's choosing to do bad things, it's like, he still is like, if things had been different, maybe he would be a better person. It's like, so, an ally instead of an enemy. And so, he tries to get through to him, and hoping that, even though he's a clone and he didn't have the kind of life and the memories that he has, that there's still some of what he is in there. But unfortunately, it's like it doesn't work. But at least he tries, and I do give the script credit for that. At least they try that. But there's also just some weirdness, especially in the first meeting, where he's like, I feel everything you feel. I see it. It gets really weird and creepy. It's like, that, and I'm like, what? I don't know what they were thinking. I'm like, because it's so bizarre that he comes off that way. He's talking and then all of a sudden he's like, oh, I want you to come have dinner with me tomorrow on Romulus, and we'll talk more. It's a weird mood whiplash, especially where, and also he's coming onto Troy. It's like, oh, can I touch your hair?
It's like, no.
Yeah, it's like
it is one heck of an introduction.
It is, but it's just very weird.
Because you get to, everything that you need to know that in that scene.
You know what? It's so mixed is my problem with him, because the stuff with Picard I buy.
Yes.
Drive to live, to survive makes sense to me. And as a motivation in of itself, I'm fine with that. Where I get a little sketchy with him and it goes a little sour is everything else. Why do you want to destroy the Federation? I mean, you're a Romulan, but let's give a reason more than just being Romulan. Why are you after Troy? Why are you being a creepy sexual predator? And why do I think Chris Hansen's going to pop out of a room at a moment and ask you why you're a predator? I want to understand this.
Well, what's interesting is I think the writing is really where this movie fails. I think Tom Hardy's performance, it's excellent. It's the writing that lets him down.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I totally agree. Like, the whole thing, one of the most things that drives me nuts about this movie is the whole subplot where Ron Perlman's Viceroy mind rapes Troy. It serves no purpose. It's not like he's trying to gain any kind of information or secrets about the Enterprise. It feels like they're just doing it because they feel like it, and it makes me feel icky every time I watch it.
The worst character in this film is the Viceroy.
And it's sad because Ron Perlman is awesome.
Yeah,
and he's
the makeup's great. It looks menacing.
He looks and sounds awesome, but his character is a complete waste.
And also,
it's like that's all he does is like he's lieutenant and he mind rapes Troy.
And also the mind rape thing is funny because it reminds me a bit of Discovery season 1, where there was just this desire. I don't know where it came from, just to throw things at their shock value.
Yes.
Discovery season 1 had extremely gruesome violence, extremely unpleasant sexual scenes, details like the Klingons have 3 penises. It's like it feels like that in the sense of, I understand that Star Trek needs to always be telling new and interesting stories. But some of this stuff, like the rape in Enterprise, in Nemesis, and the stuff in Discovery season 1 feels out of place because it would probably be the same as putting a sex scene in a Star Wars movie. It just would not feel right, given that's never been its nature.
Right.
So the Troy does feel unnecessary to the story because I think the only thing it yields is somehow Troy is able to track them when they're cloaked, which doesn't make any sense.
Right.
You're right. They could have left that part out.
I'm mid-fence on that ability.
Point is, they could have left the radar. They really could have left
it. It's
unpleasant.
It's unpleasant. It serves no purpose. It sticks out like a sore thumb. It's like it's a WTF.
And why Chinzon has a thing for Troy, I don't know. Maybe he spent too long reading her profile and staring at her picture for too long.
And also, you're supposed to feel like, when Riker is the one who gets to kill the Viceroy, it's kind of almost like payback. This is for mind raping my wife. It's like
that fight scene is so bad. So
it's not good.
It's also got that really bad slow motion with that bad motion blur.
Oh, I don't like that.
The motion blur, which is like weird. And then, of course, they're fighting on deck 29, which apparently these movies have not been very consistent to the number of decks in the Enterprise.
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
Yeah. And like you were mentioning about like Shinzon's motives outside of the stuff where it's just him and Picard, it's definitely where like the plot falls apart because there's so many like holes in his whole plan. I mean, and it's like if he really wanted that blood transfusion, he could have done it like right near the beginning, and like most of this movie wouldn't have happened. Like,
all you had to do was ask.
It's like,
but no joke.
But they asked.
Just ask and been honest and go, look, here's the deal. Once you proved you were a clone, what the background was, I'm dying. I need help. You're telling me that she couldn't have like replicated, or Crusher couldn't have replicated his blood? You're telling me you couldn't have done that? No.
That's one thing I'd like to bring up really quick is the characters.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
I think Picard's great.
Yeah.
Shinzon's great. Data is great. The V4 gets a little goofy, but we'll get there.
Yeah.
But Brent Spiner is great as Data. The other characters either don't get much screen time, or are kind of reduced to rather thankless roles.
even like Worf and Dr. Crusher hardly
Yeah,
get anything to do with this, but like outside of like the
because
Argo
Dr.
stuff,
Crusher barely gets anything to do in these movies.
yeah, she gets the shaft. Worf outside of the Argo doesn't get to do much
Which
at all either.
I think if he had taken on the Reman,
He
Right,
goes
that
off
would
and
have
fights
been
the
interesting,
Remans.
yeah.
But then you
Yeah.
don't have that emotional connection we take
Yeah,
on
it's
the
true.
Viceroy.
That's
Yeah,
true.
it's
That's
just,
true.
Yeah.
I get it. And here's the thing: I don't think they knew what to do with Worf just coming off of DS9, and we don't even know why Worf is there. Makes
Now
no
that's
sense.
it. That was that was in a that was explained in a deleted scene.
Yeah, that's the thing. There are too many
So,
deleted scenes in this.
I have a special section just for this movie, which we will get to, called "Why did they leave that out?"
Yep.
Yeah,
We'll get there in a minute.
We'll get to that. But
Yeah.
it's something that,
But as
again,
far as
movie as is, we don't even understand it. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, exactly. There's no in the movie. There's no because like last time you saw Worf in the series finale Deep Space Nine, he was going to become the Federation's ambassador to the Klingon Empire.
Yeah.
He was going to be on Kronos with
If they had just said Worf was there for the wedding, and Picard asked him to hang around, do a little help, I'll buy that. I'll buy that, Mr. Worf. Would you mind doing a few duty rounds while you were here?
I think he was there to go to the honeymoon. I think.
Yeah, but it's like
or go to
it's
the
very
wedding.
clear that he's a part of the Enterprise crew again, without any explanation as to why he's not an ambassador, and also back serving on the Enterprise.
I wonder if he's going to go to the wedding on Data's edge.
Right.
And yeah.
But tell us that it just.
Yeah, they could have at least added a line saying, "Hey, Mr. Worf,
thanks for coming, Worf." If someone said, "Thanks for coming, Worf," I'm glad we got you away as ambassador. One line would have fixed all this.
Yeah, I think that also goes to one of the other problems that the director of this movie, Stuart Baird, didn't know much about Star Trek coming into this,
which is weird because
one of the big problems I think of this movie.
There's a counterpoint to that, which is that Nicholas Meyer didn't know hardly anything about Star Trek, but he made a really good movie. Stuart Baird did not have the same luck.
Well, also, Nicholas Meyer also did a little bit of homework.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah. So
according to the cast, Stuart Baird did not do homework on it.
Also, the fact that he couldn't even address LeVar Burton by his correct name.
Laverne, and he thought he was an alien.
Yeah,
Marina Sirtis has since said he's an idiot. So
yeah, it's like LeVar Burton and Marina Sirtis have,
which is a shame.
Said in interviews over the years,
because
not kind things about Baird.
Stuart Baird is a well-respected editor.
Well, this is his third time directing. He directed 2 movies before this. He directed and they were both action films. It was U.S. Marshals, the spin-off sequel to The Fugitive with Tommy Lee Jones, Wesley Snipes, and Robert Downey Jr. And then he also did Executive Decision with Kurt Russell and Steven Seagal, which I'm actually a fan of that movie. It's a good 90s action movie.
Yeah, so I guess it really
this was only his third time. This was only the third movie he'd ever was in the director's.
I guess it boils down to if you're going to direct Star Trek, do your homework.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. One of the other things that I really enjoyed out of this,
even though this has sort of turned into what we don't like segment,
it started to, but the escape from the scimitar the first time,
that's pretty fun.
By Data and Picard.
That's a good sequence.
That was a lot of fun. The Scorpion attack fighters. That whole thing, let's blow up. I love that whole let's get out of here kind of thing, and I like that. Even switching places, I kind of saw that coming, but I was like, okay.
And the whole Data move, puny human.
Yeah.
I also like the I generally speaking, like the score by Jerry Goldsmith. I think some parts lay a little heavy on the synthesizers, but other parts really work. But Jerry Goldsmith is never disappointed.
Yeah.
No, whenever Jerry does stuff for Star Trek, it usually delivers. I mean, like for me, he's delivered so many iconic pieces of Star Trek music. I mean, he gave us the main theme from the motion picture, which was repurposed as the theme for Star Trek Next Generation, which is amazing. The Klingon theme, it's like, I love that thing. Yeah, it's like, so he's contributed so much, music wise, to Star Trek, and it's like, and this was his fifth and final Star Trek film that he composed the score for.
And he does a good job. So
there's a lot of good music in this movie.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's hit some of the things directly that we didn't like, boy. And I want to get on my soapbox for a minute here.
Go for it.
The way they treated Deanna Troi in this, I have stood by this from day one. I felt the same way about Nichelle Nichols in all 6 movies. And I feel the same way about Deanna Troi in all 4 Next Gen movies. She is underutilized. She is underappreciated. And now we're turning her into nothing more than a sexualized object. That is wrong. It is inappropriate in 2002 when this was coming out. It is not okay. Deanna Troi, as a character, is a powerful person.
Yep.
And I wanted more of her. And as a woman,
and she never gets to counsel.
As a woman, I'm insulted that not me as a woman. Her as a woman. Me, okay. Look, I'm insulted. I'm insulted that they turned her into a damsel in distress.
Yeah, as a woman, I feel very insulted.
I'm not transgender. I'm not crossing. I'm just
as a husband.
I'm passionate. As a passionate father and husband.
Well, as a father of 2 girls, I imagine that this was
I really don't like them turning her into a sexualized object. I don't. I don't think it was appropriate. I don't think it was needed. You take that out of here, and the only thing you remove is that kind of psychic thing. And I argue they probably still could have got away with doing that just fine with her, honing her feelings and her senses. Where exactly are they? I think you could have got away with that. The whole rapey thing was not needed. It was stupid.
Which is funny because 2002, and this, of course, is the things we used to do in movies. Even now, but before the Me Too movement, were even worse. In 2002, and I don't want to, let me preface this by saying, I am not insulting George Lucas or anybody who worked on Attack of the Clones. I am not saying that I hate the movie, because I don't. However, this year, we get Nemesis, we get Attack of the Clones. Both movies have things involving the female characters that were inappropriate then, and they are very inappropriate now. Of sort of rapey kind of things going on. Now, mind you, we were very unenlightened back then. It does not make it right. In fact, it was always wrong.
Yeah.
But in the same year, you get 2 big sci-fi blockbusters that have women in situations that are completely inappropriate. And I hope that as we go forward, and I think the new Trek shows have done a better job with the female characters, that we continue to get rid of these older things that we got away with back at a time when we never should have gotten away with them, but that was the time, unfortunately.
When we get the JJ verse films, I think we do see a leap, because
yes, very much so, yes.
Neoda, Carol Marcus, and then Jayla. We have 3 very good, I think, well-developed female characters. Again,
except maybe it's the part where Alice Eve is in her underwear.
I know. I'm sorry, guilty pleasure. I am male. I am weak.
I mean, she's awfully cute still.
But I will say this: she still takes. She's not the damsel.
Yeah.
She
She
still
takes charge. Yeah.
There's a fine line between sexualizing a woman and a woman taking her sexual power. There's a fine line there.
Very well.
And yes, I think in films we flirt with that line a lot. I would say, in my opinion, the JJ films go on the line of giving a woman back more of her power than taking it.
And then the shows we get Michael Burnham, a woman, is the lead character of Discovery.
Giorgio, serious female captain.
Giorgio
also
is a great character.
Yeah.
Played by Michelle Yeoh. Yeah.
Number one and Laan Noonien Singh. Uhura from the new shows.
Ortegas. We can go on and on and on. Female representation has gotten better.
Even Gwen in Prodigy and other things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like I have issues with Discovery overall as a show. But one of the things I did enjoy was them trying to put forth good female characters, and it's definitely improved. And even much to my enjoyment, because she was one of my favorite characters from Star Trek Voyager. What they've done with what 7 of 9 has gone through character wise on Star Trek Picard has been fantastic, especially in the current 3rd season. Which is long overdue for such a one of my favorite Trek characters. I agree with everything you said, Chris. It's that's one of the things that frustrates me about the next gen movies is how both Marina Sirtis and Gates McFadden got this service with their characters. It's the other stuff that Troy gets to do is comedic stuff. She gets drunk on tequila in First Contact. Getting horny with Riker in Insurrection. It's other than that, what else is she doing? It's hardly anything. And even worse for Dr. Crusher. So I totally understand why they were so frustrated with it's not all the movies were bad experiences, but especially by Nemesis. Their frustration was very evident, in interviews about.
Apparently Marina Sirtis and Stuart Baird used to argue all the time.
Oh, I can see that with what her character goes through in this movie. Outside of the happy moment with her and Riker and the wedding, that's great. After that, it's all just it's not good.
So not to dwell too much on this very, very horrible subject. I think that we've already talked about what we don't like. But one thing I do want to mention is I think that B4 is a little goofy. Now we know that Brent Spiner
the whole
is generally a good actor. But when he starts to get a little goofy, or as Captain Ingle has pointed out, a little bit whiny, he can sometimes go a little far. And I think that his performance as Data is really good in this movie. His performance as B4, I think, skirts the line of comedy for comedy's sake.
Right.
Not to add to the movie. It's not a major criticism as far as the character, other than I don't really understand the character's purpose, other than to be sort of a mole on the Enterprise.
Right.
But that never really goes anywhere, so it's kind of. However, because of him, Data gets to live on. So
that's what it feels like. Is that it seems like in the end his only purpose is to be as because it's been made clear since then, Brent Spiner was getting older, literally with Spock, he was like, I can't keep playing Data forever. He's not supposed to really age, but I'm aging, so it's he was looking to have Data be killed off, and I understand that, and I just don't know. I have mixed feelings about his death. The Picard and everybody's reactions to his death is fantastic, and also one of the great moments when they're all having that wake.
I mean, I start crying every time I watch that.
Yeah, and Troy can't keep it together, and like Riker talks about all the way back to the first episode of Counter 4 when we first met Data.
Just recently in Star Trek.
Which we got that great callback recently, no spoilers.
Great callback to that, yeah.
To that, what Riker was talking about in season 3 of Picard as a great callback.
It was really nice to connect the dots from Nemesis all the way back to Encounter at Farpoint Point. Yeah. That was really cool.
It just feels like B4 is kind of like shoehorned in, and also like the movie, because it's weird because the movie starts with the coup and Shinzon assassinating the praetor of the Romulan Senate. Then we go to the wedding.
It's pretty good intro. Pretty good intro.
Yeah, with the intro. And you think that after the wedding they would go right to back to the Romulan thing. Instead, they have this whole sidetrack with finding B4. That it's kind of like, it's like, wait a minute, what about what's going on in Romulus? What's, it's like it sidetracks like the plot very, very obviously, and not in a good way. Because like first time I was watching, I'm like, well, why aren't we? It's like, what's going on? Why aren't we getting back to what's going on in Romulus? What's going on here? It's like, and it's very obvious that, it's like, it's between like all of a sudden out of nowhere a long lost brother android of Data shows up just when something like this is happening. So it's very it doesn't take long for you to figure out, even before the first time you see B4 doing stuff that that is under Shinzon's control, that he was a plant.
You just gave me an idea.
Yeah. It's like, but it's like
you just gave me an idea of how they could have told it maybe a little better.
Mm-hmm.
They go to Romulus, they meet Shinzon, and Shinzon says, I present you a gift. We found this android.
Yeah, that would have worked better.
And then on the Enterprise, they would have all been sitting around going, okay, it's pretty clear that this is a spy. And that's how Data would have known to switch places with B4, so that he could rescue Picard on the scimitar.
Exactly. Like if he had been like, as a token of showing that you can trust me, we recently discovered this disapparent soon android. It's like
a
I'm sure that Lieutenant Commander Data would be very, very interested in meeting a long lost brother.
It's like Luke Skywalker giving the droids to Jabba the Hutt.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That works so much better. The way that B4 is brought into the plot it feels like something that doesn't belong in the movie. It's like it really like derails things for a bit.
Could have done it better. Could have done it better.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
So, Captain Ingle, I think maybe it's time.
Yes.
To talk about all the deleted scenes.
Yeah, let's go over that.
Our brand new section. Why did they take that out?
Oh my word, there are so many good scenes in this.
All right, so I'm going to bring up, here's what I'll do. I have a list. I'll bring it up to you guys. Tell me whether you think, it should have stayed out, or no, it had to stay in. What are you thinking?
Yeah.
Here we go. Okay. An extended scene at the wedding involving an actual line from Wesley Crusher, who was there.
Going to the Titan.
By the way, I pegged Wesley Crusher there when I saw this all those years ago. And I went, what is Wesley doing there? What is going on? Like, I asked so many questions at that point. But he confirmed that he's going to be serving as ops officer aboard the USS Titan.
I think they should have kept that in.
Actually, I'm going to disagree, because Wesley being in Starfleet is a giant continuity error. Because he left Starfleet when we last saw him.
He could have said, the Travelers brought me back. The Federation wants me back in, and I'm not, something like that.
So, but
you make a good point. I
mean, it sucks that Will Wheaton has no lines. He's only on screen for a couple of seconds, and that's it.
Yeah.
That's not cool. And Guinan only gets like one or two lines of dialogue, and then she's gone.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah, it's debatable whether they should have kept that scene, but I think that you could argue either way.
Because then you would have to explain, it's like, because then if
You're
the scene's
right.
back
He
in, that's all
left
right. That
Starfleet.
Wesley has a couple more scenes, but then
Because
you
he
don't have
left
an explanation of
Starfleet.
why he's back in Starfleet when he left it to go
Yeah,
journey
good point.
throughout the cosmos with the
Good
traveler.
point. Good point.
Okay.
If you don't offer an explanation why he's back in Starfleet, then it's kind of
Yeah. Okay.
it's
So
it's like
that's a third
it's the
point.
same problem with Worf all of a sudden not being an ambassador.
So they
No
probably
explanation.
should have kept the scene, but with a few more lines of dialogue
Okay.
to explain what's going on.
I agree.
There we go. Yeah.
Next one. A conversation between Picard and Data over a glass of Chateau Picard, or as Worf calls it, sour mead.
I think they should have kept that scene.
Yeah, I
think
agree
they
with
should
you.
have
I
kept
like
it,
this scene because it mirrors what's going to happen later.
And also
it
the
really-
wine. The wine
the
after Data's passing.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And also they
agree
talk about the nature of moving on.
We
Yes.
also get a full understanding of who's going and who's staying.
Yeah, there's that too.
Yeah, like the fact, there's a whole other scene that regarding Beverly that was cut that is also not cool.
Yeah.
So I agree with that.
Yeah,
That scene
keep
should
that scene.
should stay.
There is a scene with Shinzon right after the wedding scene, where it actually has trailer dialogue. But in darkness there is strength, which is the Viceroy. The time we have dreamed of is at hand. The mighty Federation will fall before us.
Leave it out. It robs his entrance.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so leave it out, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, especially since we don't really like them going over to the scimitar and seeing him in person. That's a
build up. There's a build up.
Yeah, it's more of a better build up to them because to the reveal of
it would be
Shinzon
like Darth Vader showing up in the very first scene of Star Wars. It just wouldn't have.
So that cut, I don't mind.
Yeah,
that's
leave
fine.
it out. Leave that.
A discussion in the crew lounge. I want to call it 10 forward. Now I'm going to call it 10 forward just because.
Yeah.
So they're in 10 forward, Riker, Troy, and Worf, and talking about the honeymoon. By the way, is that not an awkward conversation? Talking about your honeymoon with your ex-boyfriend.
Well, the Betazoids are kind of,
I get it. Anyway,
I mean, if it had been Dr. Fox, it would have been completely normal.
They talk about how they're going to honeymoon on the Opal Sea in Beta Z, which also makes more sense because Picard later says the Opal Sea will have to wait, number one.
Okay. Yeah.
When they go to Romulus.
Yeah.
Yeah, they probably could have kept.
And also a scene there in that same point where Data walks in with B4 and tries to teach B4 how to eat with a spoon.
I don't know if that scene would be necessary.
That didn't one feel necessary, but maybe like just some of the dialogue.
The Opal scene line,
yeah.
We have Worf warning Picard about the Romulans, telling him, "I recommend extreme caution."
I think they should have kept it in because of the Klingon attitude toward Romulans.
Yeah, and also Worf's very well-known personal attitude about the Romulans.
Yeah, good point.
Remember the TNG episode where they had the Romulan crewman who was
defector.
dying, and
the defector.
Yeah, and he the only way he could survive was a blood transfusion from Worf, and Worf refused.
Worf
and
refused.
He died.
Yeah,
because the Romulans killed his family. He
good
is
point.
not a fan of the Romulans.
You're right, because the Romulans did massacre his entire family, so
he is not a and also all the stuff that happened in TNG with Sela and all that stuff. He's like, he is not a fan of
and the fact that we this whole movie we don't see him any antagonism toward the Romulans.
Yep. That and also that should have been left in because it would have made his line about giving respect to Dinatra and the Romulans for showing up to help them.
Good point,
So yeah.
Okay, we have a scene where Picard is walking down a corridor with Troy, and Troy reminds him that he and Shinzon are not the same person. They're two different people. And then Picard, which this was in the trailer, says, "It was like a part of me had been stolen."
Yeah, that would actually be a good scene because Counselor Troy is actually doing what she does.
Yeah. And also
counseling.
Yeah, because there's a scene in the movie where he's like, after Beverly does the DNA test to show, and then they find out that he's a clone of Picard, he asks to talk to Troy and they leave, and we don't see their conversation. That's what was cut. was them going out and having that conversation.
Good point. Yeah. Good
So
point.
yeah, no, that should have been left in, because it's Picard going to Troy and confiding her about how he feels about the situation, which he
That's
should.
a good point. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Okay.
I agree. That should have
Keep it
been.
A second mind rape scene in the turbolift. I think we've established.
No, thank you.
No.
Stay out.
Keep it out. Keep it out.
Yep. We see sickbay getting ready for battle, and Crusher and Picard having a dialogue referencing to seek out new life and new civilizations.
Hmm.
I mean, give Dr. Crusher more to do.
Yeah. So I feel at this point for I'm like,
Yeah.
Just give her another scene. That's all I say.
Worf, okay. Worf and LaForge packing up Data's personal belongings in his quarters after the memorial service, including LaForge looking at Data's violin and the Holmes pipe. When Spot jumps up in Worf's arms, and this is my favorite line, not in the film, he says he is not a cat person, and LaForge is, you are now.
You are now.
Actually, they probably should have kept that scene.
I want that in there. That would have added some levity.
It's a proper send-off to Data.
Yeah. It shows, like their connection to Data, and nice little, continuity Easter eggs with, his personal effects.
Do you think they should have had a scene that was an actual official Starfleet funeral for Data? What do you think?
That would have eaten up maybe too much time. I mean, the movie is already.
Yeah, that's true.
They were trying to keep this movie around or just under 2 hours.
I mean, they could have hinted that there would have been a funeral.
Yeah, no, I say keep that out.
Maybe they could have said, we'll have the funeral on such and such.
When we get back to Earth. Or
something like that. Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
A conversation in the end between Picard and Crusher, where she invites him to dinner on Earth after she is left for Starfleet Medical.
Yes, please.
Yeah, keep it.
Yeah.
Yes, please.
Yeah.
I always like the chemistry between them, even now in Picard season 3.
Yes, very much so.
And I was going to say, because of Picard season 3, I wish that scene had been there, because that adds a little bit more to,
to where
what happened in the interim after Nemesis
up
to the first season of Picard between the two of them.
My favorite extended deleted scene involves being in space talk, and it's 2 parts put together.
Oh yes.
The first is the introduction of the seatbelts on Picard's command chair.
It would have been kind of fun,
which I love. I kind of adore it. Actually, it's funny, and
also because the guy got sucked out into space. It's kind of
not wearing a seatbelt.
But Picard's line, "It's about damn time." I love that.
Yeah,
but the introduction of Commander Madsen, who is his new first officer, and the joke that Riker plays on him. He says,
I think his name is Madden. Martin
Madden? Oh, I thought it was Madsen.
Yeah.
Okay, Madden.
Martin Madden.
Martin Madden. What I love about this is Riker, it's a great setup. I wanted this in here.
He gets to
says,
lead the
I've never
Enterprise
served with him. I've never served with him. What do I need to know? And Geordi, he looks over at Geordi. Geordi knows what Riker's about to do. And Geordi just looks away. And Riker's like, all right, here's the thing you need to know. The captain likes to keep it casual. Okay? You know what? Whenever you get a chance, call him Jean-Luc. He loves it.
So he does it.
And so he walks away. And he says, Commander Madsen, Madden, I'm glad to see you aboard. I'm happy to be serving Jean-Luc. And he just turns around and looks at him. And Madden quickly realizes, Captain Riker was pulling my leg, wasn't he?
Because it would make absolute sense for Riker to leave the ship with one last joke.
And Picard grins, and I like that.
And then, of course, I love what he says to Commander Madden. Our destination is such and such. It's a place
where no one
has gone, and then the music kicks in.
Yeah.
I think that would have been a better ending than what the movie ended on.
Yes.
Although it wasn't that ending though still isn't bad. The whole Data never saw the sun. That
right.
I feel torn.
Picard walking down the hallway is the end of the movie. It's like
I'm kind of torn, but I get it. I like the joke. I like the play. It's cute.
I like that when no one has gone before. That's a great line to end on.
that scene is true to Riker's character.
Yes.
He does like that.
Yes.
It's like, and that's why it's like him doing stuff like that in Picard season 3 is making me so happy, because like that's who Riker is. Sometimes he likes to be a little, likes to race people, like especially Worf. He used to do stuff to Worf all the time.
And ending on that line would have been a perfect ending.
And it also goes to Jonathan Frakes. Frakes is a synonymous goofball on set.
Mm-hmm.
He is. He's loved to mess around a lot. In fact, apparently they all did. They all loved to goof around, and it was, this just seems like something that, like, not only is it Riker, it feels like Frakes would do this. I feel like Frakes would have suggested this. I got this idea. Got a great idea. Just go with me on this. And I love Geordi's look, and it's cute. I agree. It needed to stay. All right. Well, let's connect this to the greater Star Trek universe, and there's a lot here.
Yeah,
there's an awful lot of connections. I'm gonna get some obvious ones out of the way. Admiral Janeway, fresh back from the Delta Quadrant.
Yep.
I'm very happy to see
Got promoted.
The Borg, the Sona, the Romulans. You get all the easy assignments. Just lucky, Admiral. I like that. I enjoyed that very much.
I like. Everybody say I like. I like the Janeway cameo because it's Janeway, and also it shows that her and Picard know each other, and they got a little bit of banter between the two of them. So it's very obvious that her and Picard know each other pretty well, just from the way that they're talking to each other. They're talking like old friends.
Yeah, I like that. I like that scene.
I like that. That it's like, even though like there wasn't any really mention of like that, like she was familiar with like the Enterprise and Riker.
It's definitely a favorite moment. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of cool to show like, oh, I guess that they know each other. Maybe they go back a little bit ways or something. So
that's one of my favorite scenes.
Yeah. I of course the reference to the Betazoid tradition goes back to TNG and the wedding for Lwaxana Troi. We also have, of course, the return of Wesley Crusher. A little thing that doesn't connect to Star Trek, or maybe it does. Director Bryan Singer is a cameo as a tactical officer in here, who obviously worked with Patrick Stewart on the X-Men films. Not necessarily Star Trek, but felt worth mentioning.
It was more just that he's a fan of Star Trek, just like how like Seth MacFarlane had a cameo on Enterprise. Way back.
Stephen Culp, who plays Commander Madden in the deleted scene, goes on to play Major Hayes, the head of the Makos, in Enterprise season 3.
That's right.
Yep. I was glad I was going to bring that up if you didn't. That's why that's a great
right.
connection.
I did not realize that.
He's a really cool character on Enterprise. I love the Makos. That was one of my favorite things about the later seasons of Enterprise was them.
And of course, this Star Trek film actually makes references to all 5 live action Star Trek films at the time. Riker requests
films or shows.
Kirk Epsilon 4, which is a maneuver referencing Kirk. Of course, it's the Next Gen crew. We reference the Dominion War with the Remans involved. Of course, Admiral Janeway, and one of the ships that are going to meet them on the other side of the rift is the USS Archer.
And also the USS Intrepid, which may or may not have been the same one that rescued Worf as a child.
Yeah,
absolutely. The Valdor. The Valdor is a little bit of a backdoor. There is a Senator Valdor in Star Trek Enterprise that this ship was named after, or reverse it, whichever way you want to play it.
If I remember canon correctly, Valdor eventually becomes Praetor, which is why ships
that makes sense. That makes sense.
The toast to Data is to absent friends, which we've heard before in Star Trek 3, The Search for Spock.
And also Chateau Picard.
And also loosely references also the to absent comrades given by Core in reference to Jadzia Dax.
Yeah.
And also, of course, reference to Data trying to whistle. And Pop Goes the Weasel.
Pop Goes the Weasel, which comes back to play in Picard season 3.
Very well used. Very well used.
Yes.
It was well done.
So much so. And then B4, the use of the song Blue Skies references something that is really controversial in canon. There is a comic book that existed that was considered canon that was released before Star Trek 09 that told the story of not only that B4's memories eventually did kick in and Data was reconstituted in B4's body, but that Data came back to Starfleet that way and became captain of the Enterprise after Picard went off to work with the Romulans. That has since been erased. Thank you very much, everything else.
But of course, the fact that B4
because he supplanted B4 and kind of like took his place, which left a lot of people going,
And also the connection that Star Trek Picard has been referencing stuff with B4 and with Data.
And specifically Data's memories and personality that he downloaded into B4 has come up more than once on Star Trek Picard.
Riker defeats the Viceroy in the same way that Kirk defeated Krug in the Star Trek Spock.
Yeah.
Yes. And of course,
Riker captain the Titan, as we see, of course, in Lord X.
Yep. The first time we ever saw that live. And then going in dry dock, of course, paying homage to motion picture the way it started out, the way it ended, which is nice. B4 in of himself comes to play a major role down the line. B4 is the design of most of the synthetics that we later find out are in Star Trek universe. So a lot from Star Trek Picard season 1 comes for just B4.
And we could go on and on. There's a lot to
one quick thing. B4 is actually a continuity continuation, because in the episode, I forget the name of the TNG episode where Data met Dr. Soon's ex-wife, his mother. She mentioned that there were prototypes before him and Lore that they made before they got to Lore.
Is that the crystalline entity episode? Silicon Avatar.
No, you're thinking of with his mother.
Okay, not Silicon Avatar, not that one.
Yeah, you're thinking the one in season 7 where he's introduced to.
Yes.
I don't remember what that is called.
Juliana Sohn.
Juliana Sohn. Thank you.
She mentioned that there were androids that they hit her and made before Lore and Data.
Yeah, good point.
So B4 is a continuity check. He's one of those prototypes that they developed before they got to Lore and Data.
Good point. Good observation.
All right. So let's favorite moment or quote from this film.
Well, moment, if you count the whole space battle, that's my favorite. But as far as individual moment, I think it's interesting. And I'll say this real quick because we're almost out of time here, but when Picard kills Shinzo, I just read the book The Mort to Arthur, which is all the Arthurian legends. King Arthur's bastard son Mordred fights him in one final battle. Arthur gouges him with a spear. Mordred drags himself along the spear and swings his sword and injures Arthur, which is why Arthur has to sail away to Avalon. So in other words, you look at this scene, Picard steers basically his son, his illegitimate offspring, so to speak. He pulls himself along it and then ends up causing the death of Data, who was basically one of Picard's closest friends. So in other words, it reminded me of that moment. And I like that moment for that reason. So. But that's a moment
I like that, bro. That's a really great observation, especially because Data's death really wounds Picard, and we see that it still bothers him when Star Trek Picard picks up almost 20 years later.
Yeah,
that Data's sacrificing himself for
Picard.
So
I think that's definitely one of my favorite moments for sure.
The spaceship battle is probably my favorite overall like action sequence. Trying to think what there's not much in the dialogue, but I think probably my favorite line is the Worf line at the wedding, where it's like he's obviously got a major headache from drinking too much Romulan ale, and saying Romulan ale should be illegal.
It's a good scene. I like that.
And then also when Dave starts singing, he just goes Earth and Berlin. It then sinks into the table. That is funny.
I think my favorite quote to me, and there are a lot of them in here. I love "You have the bridge, Mr. Troy." I love that.
That's a good line.
Great. But I'm going to go for something really serious that I think could have deeper ramifications when you analyze it. Shinzon to Picard. What am I while you exist? A shadow? An echo? How is it to feel like Shinzon right now? Like, and everything he's gone through, he didn't ask to be created the way he was. He didn't ask to be what he is. And yet I feel some genuineness with the conversation that he has with Picard, even though I know he needs the blood, but I think there is some genuine nature to his dinner with Picard.
Yeah,
very much.
Oh,
so.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I love that thought, and that what am I? What am I, just a clone? Who am I? And I really love
what
that
is my
question
identity?
of identity. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. And he plays that so well.
It's kind of like the clones in Star Wars, where they have to figure out who are they?
Exactly.
That they're individuals. They're not, the same person.
Well,
yeah.
Okay, cool.
Final thoughts.
I would say that this is the weakest of the next gen films. I don't think the movie is horrible. And I think if you want to sort of understand where Star Trek goes next, particularly with New Trek and the JJ reboot, this is a movie that you should see, I think. Just recognize that it's not going to be that great. So overall, I think I like the movie, but there's still a lot that keeps me from enjoying it fully.
Right. Justin?
Yeah, this movie was very disappointing for me when it first came out, because like I was really looking forward to it, and it was such a letdown. And it's like there's things that are nice, and like we said, but there's also so much bad in this movie that I would. It's like right there. Like it's like when I rate the movies, it's easily in the bottom 5, but it's not like the worst. Like Final Frontier and Into Darkness, I have a lot more problems with those two than this one. But it's definitely the weakest next gen movie. I'd rather watch Insurrection again rather than watch Nemesis. And I have plenty of issues with Insurrection as well. But
this is sad
because this movie, along with Star Trek Enterprise's struggles, is what killed Star Trek for a while. Unfortunately, and it's a fact. It's like this was the first Trek movie to fail at the box office,
which probably led to the failure of Enterprise. So.
Yeah, it definitely did. It definitely helped contribute to Enterprise not
which
being
is a shame, because season 5 of Enterprise.
Yeah, because like that 4th season Enterprise is amazing, and it's like the show was like really firing on all cylinders.
And
but unfortunately, it was too late, and they pulled the plug.
And the 5th season would have been the Earth Romulan War.
Yeah, which I wish we'd gotten to see. Like I said, as a fan of the Romulans, I wish we'd see. But
anyway.
It didn't help that when this movie was released, it was released a week before Lord of the Rings: The Two Towers.
Yeah. Yep.
And there was, the Chamber of Secrets was out. It's like it was up against really tough competition, which also did not help. So between the fact that it's not a great movie, and it was released up against some box office juggernauts
I don't know what.
It's no surprise that it did not perform well at the box office.
I don't know what executive made that call. Oh my gosh.
I don't know what they were thinking. But anyway, I'm just glad that, because for a long time, this movie really angered me because this was the final time we saw the Next Gen crew together. This was not supposed to be their final film, but ended up being their final film just because of what a mess this movie is, and that it failed at the box office.
I see. I have one
That's
question.
why I'm so thankful that after all these years, with Star Trek Picard season 3, we're finally getting the TNG crew its proper send off.
Yes.
And it's like at this point, when we're recording this, the season is not finished yet. Episode 7 is dropping in a couple of hours.
And boy, is it a good season.
The season has been amazing, and I have a good feeling it's going to stick the landing. If it does, it's really going to make up for what a disappointment, messy movie Star Trek Nemesis is.
I have one question. I have one question for you.
Mm-hmm.
If the deleted scenes that we agreed should have been in the movie, if they had stayed in, how much would that have affected your feeling about the movie?
Not too much. I mean, it would have definitely improved a few things, but there's still a lot
You
of
think the
other
overall
issues with
story
like
is
the
still
plot and stuff that are still would not have been solved by
the overall story is still pretty weak.
Yeah, it would have been helpful additions and would have been good character moments, but it would not have fixed a lot of the plot problems that plagued this movie and keep it from being a good movie. So
that's a good point. Yeah.
In the end, this is definitely one of the weakest Star Trek movies. It's not the worst, but it's not good or great. It's kind of just there. It's worth checking out at least because some of the stuff that happened in this movie plays an important part as with what's come with in Picard.
Very much so, yeah.
Especially the first and the third seasons.
So and also it's recontextualized the film a little bit.
Yeah, and thankfully this was it. Even though it hurt Star Trek, Star Trek went away for a while. It didn't end up killing Star Trek. It hurt it, and thankfully Star Trek was able to recover.
And this was the failure that led to the huge success of Star Trek 09.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
All right. Well, Justin, I want to thank you so much for joining us today. I think this has been a great talk.
This has been a really fun conversation. It's like I've always had bad feelings about this movie, and every rewatch it, I'm like, it's not as bad as I remember. It's still not good, but it's not as bad as I remembered it. And so, and I kind of point out, like we said, we point out there is some good stuff in this film, despite its problems. And so, I really. It was good to revisit this movie and kind of make it went up just a little bit in my estimation. It's still like one of my least favorite movies, but it's not. I realize it's not as bad as I remembered it, and it was nice that you guys had me on the show. I hope that I get to come on again because I love talking Star Trek. Star Trek.
Oh yes, we will definitely have you back. Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's like I love Star Trek dearly, and so this has been a really fun conversation. I had a great time and look forward to doing it again.
Yeah, awesome. We will definitely be reaching out to you soon.
Appreciate it.
Well, speaking of future episodes, next week, we're going to do something a little special here. We're going to take a look at 2 episodes that don't really have anything to do with each other, but we're going to do it just because we love it. First, we're going to take a look at Star Trek Discovery Season 2, Episode 3, Point of Light. This is where the mystery of Red Angel really starts.
Oh, yes, the Red Angel, yeah.
And we're going to follow that. We're going to end this cycle before the randomizer recycles us again to Lower Decks, where we're going to take a look at Season 2, Episode 9, the episode Wiedź, which is a look at the lower deckers aboard Klingon and Vulcan ships.
Yes.
I love this idea. So we're going to take a look at both of those, have a good old time before the randomizer decides to take us to who knows where.
Hopefully not Rascals.
Justin, you got anything to plug?
No. Like Brennan, it's like I met Brennan through being a supporter and a member of the Outlaw Nation, John Roca's YouTube channel, who people may know from his work at Collider and the movie Trivia Schmodown. It's like you can find me there hanging out with people. It's like it's like there's a Patreon and a Discord that we're a part of, and have some fun times down there. And other than that, I just kind of like just roam the interwebs. And
where can we find you on Twitter?
You can find me on Twitter. My handle is at jtoner1977. It's like I follow mostly people. I tweet here and there, mostly about certain things I like. But it's like that's the easiest place to where I make myself known.
Awesome.
Brennan, where can the people find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Brennan Mystical. You can find this podcast on YouTube and on everywhere you get your podcasts under the Page Turners They Were Not umbrella. And you can follow me in all the various social groups of which I am a part.
Awesome. You can also find me on Twitch and Twitter at Ingle, INGLE 1984, where I tend to play different video games and hang out. And I'm looking to gather together a collection of Star Trek video games where I will record my playthroughs of those, and we will drop them right here on Brennan's channel. Not if you're on Spotify or the other audios. Sorry. This will have to be a visual only.
Elite Force isn't as fun if you're just listening to the sound.
Oh no, you got to see the game. So we'll work through that. But as always, we end every episode. Applause and live long and prosper.
Peace and long life.